21st, 2023 meeting of Environmental and Public Works Committee is now coming to order. For the clerk, please read the roll.
Mr. Blankley. Mr. Blankley is present. Mr. Florio. Mr. Florio is present. Mr. Hebert. Mr. Hebert is present. Ms. Hugh Smith. Ms. Hugh Smith is present. Chairman Johns.
Here.
Chairman Johns is present. Mr. Mafucci. Mr. Mafucci is present. Mr. McCabe. Mr. McCabe is present.
Okay, is there anyone present who has signed up to speak before the committee this week? Okay, is there anybody who didn't sign up to speak before the committee who would like to come forward and speak before the committee this evening? Matt, okay. Next item on the agenda. Oh. Excuse me. The next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. You have before you the July 24, 2023 minutes of the Environment and Public Works Committee. They will stand approved unless the clerk is notified before the end of the business day. Next item on agenda is new business.
Referral number 23-0263, classification of action and determination of significance pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act for designation to serve as lead agency, the sale of county-owned property located along Crittenden Road in the town of Brighton, state of New York.
Moved by Legislator McCabe, second by Legislator DeFlorio. Or any discussion? Legislator Hebert.
Thank you, Chairman Johns. Through you to the administration, can you confirm that the addresses listed in the referral are complete? For example, when you look on the Monroe County tax portal, the tax IDs work to describe the property, but the addresses do not come up in Google Earth on any maps or on any other web application sites that I checked for. There's no street numbers given for Pembroke Ave, Blair Ave, or Compton Park. My request is, could you provide those complete addresses by the Friday before full ledge?
Through the chair, these parcels are part of a road that's never been opened or dedicated, so they do not have street addresses.
The other question I have through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration, there is no offered amount listed specifically for over 50 of these properties. I'm guessing that some of them are like lumped together, but there's no indication of that in the referral. Could you address that, please?
Through the chair, the offered amount at the top of the list are for the items until the second offered amount on page 5 of the referral. But I'll note that this referral is particular to the seeker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Any other discussion? Yes, Legislator Hugh Smith.
To the administration. Short form C2, letter A. Asks that the comprehensive plans for details.
Through the chair, could you elaborate a bit more?
On page 2.
Through the chair, yes.
Okay, awesome. So it says adopted site. List of sites that we're selling.
Through the chair, thank you. Yes, all of these sites are located within the town of Brighton. They're within the town of Brighton's comprehensive land use plan, since the town of Brighton has a comprehensive land use plan that covers the entire town.
But what I don't know is would the same property to RG&E,
Through the chair, if I'm understanding the question correctly, we can pull the provision of the town of Brighton's land use plan and provide it to you.
Okay, is there any other discussion? Okay, then, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Ayes? Carries. Item.
Referral number 23-0265, acceptance of a municipal waste reduction and recycling grant and aid from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation for a municipal waste reduction and or recycling project.
By Legislator Florio, second by Legislator Hebert. Any discussions? Bert,
Thank you very much. Through you, Mr. Chairman of the administration, are there any benefits other than being eligible for additional grants when we receive silver certification in the Climate Smart Communities program? And I might be on the wrong referral. Wait 1 second. I am, sorry. No wonder it didn't make sense. Through you, Mr. Chairman of the administration, can you just quickly summarize what recycling salaries are funded with this grant?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chairman, two positions, our waste diversion education coordinator, as well as our environmental educator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all I have.
any other discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those against, say nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries.
Referral number 23-0266, acceptance of 2 grants from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation for climate smart communities for the climate vulnerability assessment and climate adaptation plan.
Moved by Legislator Hebert, second by Legislator McCabe. Any discussion on this?
Could you briefly describe or characterize the relationship between the community, the climate adaptation and resiliency plan funded through these grants and the climate action plan, either phase 1 or phase 2?
Yes, through the chair. This is Deputy Director Clement Chung. So the Climate Action Plan focuses primarily on greenhouse gas emissions reduction, so climate change mitigation. The Climate Adaptation and Resiliency Plan that's proposed through this referral is kind of the complement to that, which is looking at the effects of climate change that are already happening and the investments that would be needed to create a resilient community against those impacts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield the floor.
Legislator Hebert.
So the certification program allows a community to show the progress that it has made towards actions to adapt to and mitigate climate change in their communities. As it relates to specific benefits, such as financial benefits, there are grants that are made available to, or through this program, I should say, but they aren't necessarily contingent upon achieving a certification. Through the chair, that is correct. Yes, through the chair. As I mentioned, this is the complement to the climate action plan. So looking at the impacts to climate change that is already projected to happen, regardless of how much we're able to reduce greenhouse gas emissions moving forward. We know that there are certain impacts that are already projected to happen and are already happening in our community. So some of those might be related to our physical infrastructure. So for example, our pure waters infrastructure is heavily impacted by the amount of rainfall that, that falls within our boundaries. So building up resiliency to the storms as they intensify and as they change in nature is a component of the adaptation and resiliency. It also impacts community issues such as community health, potential impacts to the community economy through changes in temperature and weather. And also, as we've seen, there's been an influx of population into our area due to the effects of climate change in other regions. For example, after Hurricane Maria, there was an influx of Puerto Rican community members coming into this community, which as a community, we should prepare for and provide resources to adapt to that.
Other discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Okay, any opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, motion carries.
Referral number 23-0268, amend the 2023 to 2028 capital improvement program in the 2023 capital budget to add a project entitled CDC Annex Mod B renovation and authorize financing for the project.
Okay, moved by legislator McCabe, second by legislator DeFlorio. And any discussion, legislator DeFlorio?
Thank you. Through the chair to the administration. First, I just want to clarify, just to make sure I'm on the same page. This referral is to add 10 beds to the Brighton campus annex, correct? And certify those beds to be utilized for the program, I guess would be the.
Through the chair, that's correct. So at the correctional facility in Brighton, just north of MCC, we would add 10 beds for SD secure detention criteria.
Thank you. And how often, I know I went on a tour out of Children's Detention Center, so that, and that property is currently being utilized, I guess, as a spillover. How often is that currently being used now?
Through the chair, all the time. For instance, I was on a call with the CDC folks last week and they're at capacity. So certainly they have a need for additional beds.
Not disputing that. I'm just trying to gauge. So the Children's Detention Center in Rush is currently at capacity. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry, we were so busy talking here, I forgot the question. Would you mind repeating the question?
Is the CDC Brighton, or I'm sorry, the Rush campus currently at maximum capacity?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, actually, we're over capacity right now. And if I could take a minute, I can walk you through the numbers of where we
Yes.
are. Originally, we were approved at the original CDC for 31 beds. We had received approval from the state for 8 beds at the annex, which is the old correctional facility. So that's 31 and 8. That gets us up to 39. We have at the annex received a waiver for 5 dormitory style beds at the annex. And then we also received a waiver for 3 more beds and what's referred to as lounge A and B combined. So that gets us up to a total capacity of 47. There have been several times where we have pushed up against that number. Luckily, we have not needed more than that, but we have been right up there. There were times last year, fairly well publicized, and I think we had talked about it, where we were out of room. Kids were held in conference rooms and police stations, and it was really a crisis associated with that. What this project is doing is it will replace those 8 beds that are that we have the waiver for currently, because we are going to be adding, the 10 beds will be hardened beds. It's not an ideal situation to have a dormitory style setup. It's not ideal for the young people who are there, and it's also not an ideal situation for our staff to do that. You know, knock on wood. And again, one thing I've said several times here. At the end of last year, we have new leadership at the CDC, and I can't say enough what a fantastic job that they've done there. And if you've taken a tour there, I think you've probably heard things in terms of the staff, and it's a very, very different operation there. But notwithstanding that, you know, our staffing levels are much higher than they have been as a result of the new leadership and the hiring that we've been able to do there. But really, our goal here is to, and again, we're looking at building 10 beds, so the capacity will go up by 2 beds. But the biggest thing is the safety and the security at the facility. And I'll let Mr. Murphy speak to this more, but also as we get in further into the project of the new facility, which will be completed at the end of 2024. At some point, some of those beds will come offline as part of the construction project. So we're going to have to do something to address this, and that will help with this in terms of the timing and meeting the needs and the construction schedule of that.
Thank you. That really helped. Kind of to add on to that then, through the chair to the administration. So just to clarify, the state has to approve the number of beds. So does that mean that we could not add more than 10 if we felt we needed to?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, the state would need to approve that. But again, I think we're all comfortable that 49, you know, again, keep fingers crossed and hopefully everything goes well. But we're comfortable that 49 is a good number now. Where's the capacity at the new facility? Yeah, and then once we're into the new facility, the capacity there will be 58. And again, it will be our goal at some point, once the new facility is open, you know, the conversations and the understanding that we have with the sheriff's office is at some point, you know, we will give them back that facility. So this is a temporary solution and a temporary solution, and it's going to take obviously several months to get this up and running and built. But again, we're comfortable with the 49 number, with the idea that we will have 58 beds once the new facility is built.
I'm sorry, because it's kind of like moving chairs here. The new facility is an additional facility out at the Rush campus. Is that correct?
Correct, through you,
Okay.
Mr.
Sorry,
Chairman.
just trying all of the moving parts here. So right now you're creating a temporary annex on the Brighton campus. The capacity will be 47, or I'm sorry, 74, said that backwards. Once the new facility is built in Rush, you will take that offline, but the total capacity will be 58.
No, through you, Mr. Chairman. Total between both facilities will be 49 with
49,
these
okay.
beds being added, with 31 will be at the old facility in Rush.
Gotcha. And then once the new facility is built in Rush, the plan is to potentially take the annex offline because there'll be a total capacity of 58 out on the Rush campus. Is that what you're saying?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, that's correct. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for taking me through that. It really helped a lot. So one additional clarifying question, because there was some confusion amongst a couple of us talking about it. If a juvenile offender, let's say 17, gets charged, comes into the facility, how long does that juvenile offender stay out at the CDC at this time? Like, what's the timeline?
Through the chair. So that can vary widely depending on the nature of their case. So you referenced a 17-year-old. A 17-year-old accused, well, it
Yeah.
goes to the different categories. So there are adolescent offenders, juvenile offenders, and juvenile delinquents. That's in order from more severe and older to less severe and younger. The trend, generally speaking, is that the juvenile delinquents, who are the less severe and younger, will have shorter stays. By law, those cases are processed pretty quickly in family court. They often plead and then they move through. So generally speaking, anywhere from a matter of, well, it can be days. Sometimes they're held and then the court lets them out on supervision while their case is pending. Sometimes it could be several months as their case works its way through the system. The adolescent offenders, so for example, you could have a 17-year-old who's accused of murder and is housed in the Children's Detention Center. Those cases are prosecuted in the youth part by the district attorney's office as compared to family court, which is my office, the juvenile prosecutor's office. Those cases, like any murder trial, can take a year to get through the system. So then you see some youth with longer stays. So it really varies widely.
Thank you. Through the chair to the administration, once they're let the murder charge offenders that you referenced, once they're charged and sentenced, do they then leave the facility to go somewhere else? And that was, I think, where we were having a difference of ideas.
Understood. Yeah, through the chair, if they are convicted, so right, for them, the Children's Detention Center is sort of the equivalent of the county jail. It's pre-conviction detention, right? Pre-trial detention. Once they're convicted, they would go to a state facility run by OCFS. It usually takes, that's sometimes when we're up against census, we're sort of asking the state, hey, you're going to come, pick, A, B, and C up to take them into custody. They go off with the state, and that's where they serve their sentence until they're 21 years of age, at which time they could go into a state prison.
Gotcha. Wonderful. That's wonderful news, because there was some disagreement on that they would stay there through their whole sentence. And I didn't think that was accurate. So thank you for clarifying. But to that point, somebody could be there for, let's say, 3 years if the trial drug out, correct?
Through the chair, we haven't had anyone there that long that I'm aware of. We've certainly had people there for a year.
Thank you. I yield the floor.
Later, Hebert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through to the administration, you indicated you have the waiver from OCFS. How long is that waiver good for?
Through the chair, we've renewed it several times. Right now, it is through the end of August. We have no reason to think they won't continue to extend it. But we are in ongoing conversations with them as to what capacity needs are.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration. After this $1 million is invested for the annex, do these beds meet all of the current standards, which are dramatically different than what DJCS has? When the work is done?
Through the chair. Yes, they'll be certified again for secure detention for juveniles. Adolescent offenders cannot go to this facility because it does not meet that criteria, just juveniles.
So through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration. So there are some, I'm going to call them youthful offenders. I realize there's 3 categories, but there are some youthful offenders that would not qualify to go to the Brighton Annex.
Through the chair, that's correct. Adolescent offenders could not, the 16 and 17-year-olds.
Gotcha. So through you, Mr. Chairman, of the administration, we are investing $1 million to create 10 beds. What is the longest that OCFS has given us a waiver for from a period of time perspective? A month, 3 months? You said you've gone back several times for extensions.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, Mr. Chairman, the state will reimburse us. The standard reimbursement formula for this is 49% is what their share is. We've had conversations with them. We've requested that they actually cover our 51% of this, which we do not have a commitment for at this point. You know, I guess through you, Mr. Chairman, I guess optimistic might be too strong of a word, but we're hopeful that they're going to honor that request. And, you know, in terms of the need for these beds, I'm very confident in offering the opinion that these beds being approved, they will not revoke that approval at any point, because the issue that we're facing here is an issue that is being faced all across New York State, and there are not beds anywhere. You know, and let me just, you know, Mr. Bringawat had talked about, you know, when somebody is convicted and sentenced, you know, I jokingly refer to him as a county attorney / census manager at the CDC, because he spends a lot of time on the phone. You know, he knows these kids' names, he knows these kids' stories, and he's very involved in moving these kids out the door with that. And again, so is the staff at the CDC. This is a crisis that is going on across New York State in terms of the needs for these beds. And again, that's why, you know, the 8 beds that we have right now that are in the dormitory settings right now are not ideal. And again, not that I'm an expert on this, and not that I've been up on children's detention issues for a long time, but I would imagine under circumstances a few years ago that they would not be granting these waivers like this. I mean, this is a crisis, and I think we're on very solid footing that if you know, we get the approval for this, that there's really no chance of them revoking the waivers that we have for these.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Chairman, the administration, could you potentially before full legislature next month, go to OCFS and ask them for a waiver through it? You said the CDC complex itself will be done at the end of 2024. Could we make sure that we have a waiver through at least that point in time? I do believe that, at least I was told, that a couple of counties have had waivers threatened because of some incident that has occurred at the temporary facilities. I would not want to see us spend $1 million and 3 months from now they say, oh, waiver's over, no good.
Okay, through you, Mr. Chairman, the answer to your question, legislator, is yes. And I think I may have misspoken, I think slightly. I don't know that I don't know that we would be seeking a waiver, but we would be actually, what's the? Yeah, we would actually be seeking confirmation that they would be expanding our license or our authorization, but we definitely could ask for something from them in writing before legislature.
I would appreciate that. And a couple other quick questions, if I may, through you, Mr. Chairman. Could you provide us just pick a point in time, something fairly recent, where you have the demographics of the individuals currently housed there? Show us what the, say weekly population has been. And when I say housed there, both the CDC facility itself, as well as the annex. And could you also identify in that how many of them are from other counties? Because I know other counties have to use our facility. We're the one for Western New York, correct?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'm sure that won't be an issue. We could do that.
Thank you.
One other point I'd like to make with that too. And again, we'll take a look at the data, but we also have a number of youth who are also from Monroe County who are placed in other places too, just also because of the individual dynamics between the individuals. There's a very cooperative system between the counties. So looking at the data, we can also provide that as well to give you a better context of what's going on.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much. That's a beneficial add. Thank you. I yield the floor.
Thank you. Through the chair to the administration, I'm sorry, just one additional clarifying question because I'm not as up on the terminology. So the youth that will be housed at the annex are what age?
Through the chair. So they are again, at the younger, less severe and the juvenile delinquents. And that's because there are, under the regulations, there are, as Mr. Murphy alluded to, there's secure detention, and then there's what they call specialized secure, which is what's required for adolescent offenders, which is the highest level. So the campus in Rush meets both of those criteria. The campus in Brighton will just be used for the juvenile delinquents. That is, for the last year, that has been our biggest need in terms of capacity, because particularly with the car thefts, many of the offenders are young.
Thank you. Through the chair to the administration, will that, because I'm assuming instead of this now being, it's currently being used as, I guess I would call it a spillover, will this make it more official so that you can put the youthful offenders there to create better dynamics, for lack of a better term, in the Rush campus? When I was out there, there were juveniles that were mixed that probably shouldn't have been mixed because of shortages.
It certainly gives more flexibility in that regard. As Mr. McCann alluded to, allows us to use more permanent, secure rooms versus the temporary dormitory style.
Thank you. Through follow-up question through the chair to the administration. So I guess what I'm asking is, right now we have 31 beds in Rush. But if we had a greater need for beds for the older adolescents, could you move some of the youthful offenders into the annex to get them away from, even though maybe all 31 of the beds weren't filled in Rush, if that makes sense?
Yes, absolutely. Through the chair. And that's something that we're already looking at, where a number of, right, in the beds we already have at the annex, they are full with juvenile delinquents. That does allow for some management of, again, alluding who should be housed with whom. So that already allows for that capacity. That's absolutely something the CDC staff is thinking about every day. And this would, expand the capacity to do that.
Thank you. And I just will want to say that after my tour there, I was just blown away at how the professionalism and how well they were handling things out there. So kudos to them out there. Thank you.
Other discussion on this item? None. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? The ayes have it. The item carries. Okay. Are there?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr.
legislator.
Chair, could you hold the meeting opened? Legislator McCabe had to leave, but would like to register his vote.
Sure.
Thank
Sure.
you.
And, okay. There being no other matters before this committee this evening, the August 21st, 2023 meeting of Environmental and Public Works will remain open until the end of the business day today. The next meeting of the Environmental and Public Works is scheduled for Monday, September 25th at 5:15. See you then.